Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Wild Woman podcast. I have another amazing guest with me today called Aly Dunne, and Aly is an astrologer, which very close to my heart. I mention it sometimes on the podcast. I would say I'm a very amateur but enthusiastic student of astrology. She's a transformational life coach. She's a channel for the Divine Collective, which she can tell us a little bit about as well. And her mission is simple. I really like how, just in reading her bio and a little bit about Aly, is to help you connect with the magic and insight within yourself. And words, a sentence she said, which really struck a chord with me: you are not alone, you are powerful beyond measure. And I think that's the journey I've been on, and I think which many of us, all of us, are on now. And it's why I started the podcast. And it happened very organically, as I've said before. But my passion is in inviting all of these amazing women on is to help you remember how powerful you truly are. And if you've listened to many of my other guests as well, just sharing their wisdom, their insights, their challenges, and that, yeah, whatever it is we're going through, and particularly if any of you are struggling right now. I'm meeting a lot of people who are. I've struggled a lot in my own life. There is always light at the end of the tunnel. There truly, truly is when we connect within. And I just know that Aly will remind us of that during this episode. So, welcome, Aly. I'm so grateful, a fellow native of Ireland, to the podcast.
Thank you. And it's so lovely to be here. Thank you, Celine, for inviting me. It's really an honor. And I feel such goodness in you and such a beautiful spirit. So I'm really happy to be spending this time with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mm.
And can we start, if you wouldn't mind, I suppose the first sentence in your bio that really struck a chord with me was when you said you were 33 when everything changed. And it wasn't just a shift, it was a complete transformation, a spiritual awakening so deep that I couldn't ignore the call in your words. Um, Prior to that, could you tell us, but just before that period of when your that awakening happened, what were you like? What was Aly's life like up until that age?
Well, I actually started meditating when I was 13. I had had spiritual experiences all through when I was a little person, a child. Um, Very big, expansive experiences and experiences of seeing light. And um, I even actually remember being born. I remember being born and the absolute relief I felt of being born. And I remember a lot of my early years. So yeah, I mean, I was talking, my earliest memory of actually talking to God and hearing and understanding what they were saying was 5. But I'm sure I was just in that as a baby, as a child. But at 5, yeah, I started, well, I thought everybody did this, so I didn't think it was anything different. But I was definitely talking with what I called God, and the messages, the support, the love, the deep compassion that I would feel from them as a little child. I remember lying on the grass and just hearing them just, we love you so much. Everything is going to change. Just keep strong. Like all this love being poured into me. So it was very, I'm very grateful.
Oh, God, that's so moving to hear that. It's just wow.
Yeah, I'm very, very grateful.
Mm.
Um, but I felt this separation even still. I had a lot of turmoil growing up, and I felt a lot of distance, even though I was talking with them all the time. Energetically, I knew that there was something separating us, you know? And this was very, very frustrating to me. And so when I saw a friend of mine meditating, I said, "What are you doing?" And you know, this I'm 59 now. So at the age of 13, what it was like in the early 70s, right? So or late 70s. So meditation wasn't such a big thing in Ireland, you know, like and so he was telling me, "Oh, well, yes, this is what I'm doing." And I said, "Will you teach me?" And he said, "Yes." And it was a simple method, you know, just focusing on the breath. It wasn't like some complicated practice, but I loved it. And I started meditating every day, and I was reading the Bible every night. And like this was like, because on the earthly plane, my life was very, very out of control. So these were the things that kind of anchored me, this my connection and so forth. But I still felt that separation. And so I would ask, when are you going to take the separation away? When can I actually really experience you? When? This was my constant question. I remember being in Paris. I was walking along the Seine, just near Notre Dame there, and it was late at night. I used to like to walk along there because I could hear the jazz clubs and the music and stuff. And I was like, I actually started shouting. I was like, when? When? You know? So I meditated every day. I started studying at 18 with masters in New York, all around wherever I could find someone that really I felt had something. And I started incorporating their practices into my simple meditation. I started doing Sanskrit mantra. That started at 18 and a half, 19. That was very good. I remember my first mantra that I learned was I was in New York and I was at a yoga class. And that was weird in 85, 86, you know, like you're doing yoga classes and meditation retreats. Everybody thought I was very odd to be doing that. But I was anyways in this yoga class, and at the end, we just did a simple mantra for like about 20 minutes of Om Shanti, which means Om peace, peace, peace. And I just applied myself as the teacher instructed. And the studio was close to where I lived, so I walked home. And on my walking home, I remember it like it was yesterday, suddenly I was like, oh, this peace descended on me. And I went, this is what I want. I want more of this. How can I learn these Sanskrit mantras? And then I became like an avid mantra learner. Yeah, so meditation and Sanskrit mantra have been the bedrocks of my spiritual practices, though there have been other more involved practices. Yeah, so, but I was still tormented, you know, I felt still that separation, even though I had moments of seeing through, but it was frustrating for me. And so I was 33. And at this stage, I was meditating about 2, 3 hours a day. And in my little room, in my home in Los Angeles at this time. And I remember sitting there one night after meditation, and I said to the divine, I said, you know what? I'm lonely here. I would really like to find a group of meditators that I could meditate with. And the real reason behind it wasn't that I was that lonely. It was actually, I was a bit scared because I really wanted to go deep. And I could feel the call to go really deep, but I was terrified that I was going to lose myself. And I thought, if I'm in a room with other people, I'll feel safer, you know? And a few days later, a friend said, you should go to this place where I go to meditate. You might like it. It's a really nice group. And some of them have been meditating for 40, 50 years. And so I went, oh, okay, yeah. And so, yeah, sign me up now. So I went, and the first night, it was a weekly meditation, once a week kind of thing. And the first night, it was lovely. It was like an hour long. It wasn't like some fancy thing, but it was just really nice to be in the room with other people. They put the lights down low and we just all meditated together. And it just felt safe. And so I went back the next week, and I had a lovely experience again. And then I went back a third time. And I mean, so I was sitting in meditation, and suddenly, and I was deep in a really beautiful feeling. I felt very at peace, very content. And then suddenly I felt really what felt like a sword go through my head, break it open. And, went all the way down the center of me to the bottom of my torso. I was terrified. I really was terrified. And at the same time, I was the happiest I had ever been in my whole life, because I knew what I'd been praying for all those years had finally happened. Oh, I was in bliss. My whole body expanded like there was no end to it. And I felt like I was levitating. My eyes were closed, but I felt like I was levitating up. And the ceiling was about 22 feet high. And I was sure I was right up there. And I just was freed from my own, mishigas. It was just amazing. And after about 20 minutes, I started to come out of meditation, and I opened my eyes, and everybody was still meditating. And then a few minutes after, they finished the meditation. And I was very clear in myself that I wasn't going to talk to anybody about it, because I knew what had happened was something very, very holy. And I didn't want it touched, So I went home that
Anyone noticed? Sorry, Ali. Would anyone have
no,
noticed
no one noticed it
with
because the
all of
room was
this?
dark
It was just, yeah.
and we were all in our own
Mm.
experience. Yeah. So then I went home, and I was exhausted. I got into bed and I fell right asleep. And the next morning, I woke around 5 in the morning, and my eyes opened. And the first thing in my head was, is it still with me? And then this rush of bliss started going through my whole body, like waves, waves, waves. And it was constant, constant. Try operating in your life when you're in constant bliss. Like imagine, your most intimate, fabulous experience. and multiply that by 100, because it's happening in every cell. So it was, and I
Is
lived,
there any need to do anything after that?
I didn't.
Mm.
And all I wanted to do was meditate. All I wanted to do was be in this feeling. And I lived like that for a year.
Continuously in that
Continuously.
spirit.
It actually has never left. It has changed over the years, but I lived in that height of experience for a year.
And what was that like physically to sort of?
I mean, well, it changed my experience of, because when you're in that space, when you're in that experience, you see things very differently. Everything is shimmering. You see these shards of light coming down from the sky all the time. The divine light is always pouring on us. And
Did you talk to anyone about it?
I I did after a few months. I confided in a friend, and yeah, and but otherwise I kept it to myself. And basically I would just walk around my neighborhood chanting and just sending blessings to every house. Oh yes, you and you and you. Ah, it was just a magical year, a magical year. And then slowly it became more deeper in me, and not so much where it was that distracting. So I could actually go do things because I didn't really work. Yeah, I didn't want to.
Yeah, I can
I
imagine.
didn't
Yeah.
want to do, I just wanted to be in that. And so that was my experience with I found out later that it was my kundalini that had awoken. I
Okay.
didn't know that at the time. I'd heard about kundalini, but I didn't know what it really was, to be honest.
Can you just
Um,
can you describe it a little bit?
yes,
Yes, please. It's quite a sudden, obviously, from what you described.
for some people, for other people, it's different for everybody. It's very different for everybody. But the kundalini is this divine energy that lives at the muladhara, the bottom of the energy systems in the body, in the torso. And it's dormant in most people. But you can experience part of it in those moments of expansion, or in an intimate moment where you're with the person that you love, or um, so we think of kundalini as a feminine energy, because all feminine energy is power, all masculine energy is action in the universe.
Mm.
So the kundalini energy is power, and she's what operates the whole universe. So when it becomes awakened, it starts the long journey from the Muladhara, the bottom chakra, all the way up to the Sahasrara and beyond. And it's what? And most people like 3 feet.
Mhm.
So, but that journey can take lifetimes. That's a long journey, but it can be done in one lifetime if one is focused enough. And has, you know, done a certain amount in previous lifetimes, maybe. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, it's what operates the world. And when it does become awoken and you really start feeling her cleaning up all the samskaras, or also known as kleshas in the Buddhist tradition, which are the obscurations along the Sushumna, the main nadi, the main central channel, that's where they kind of live energetically. And she comes up and she starts her spring cleaning, and it's this process of spring cleaning that, it's very powerful. I could actually feel her moving through me. Oh, she's there. Oh, and now she's moved up, and it'd be 2, 3 years later. Oh, now she's here. Okay. Wow. you know. So it,
Okay. Was it a
yeah.
few years moving up through
Oh,
your,
yes, yes.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you described that breaking open and the sword coming down, was that just the opening for
Yes.
the
Yeah.
kundalini then to start moving up?
Yes. Exactly.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And was that painful when that, not painful, when you described that sense of the
Well, it
sword?
was painful, actually.
Yeah.
Well, to me, was it painful? Was it actually pain?
Physically.
It was shocking. It was it was painful, but not in ow, I burned my hand. It
Mm.
was like it just totally reorganized my whole energy system. It was shocking. It was revolutionary. It was
Mm.
There was before that moment and my life after that moment, and everything changed. Everything changed. My understanding changed. Suddenly I could like go back to the Bible and I could understand certain things in a different way that I was reading. Or I would pick up, a spiritual manuscript book or whatever, and I could understand what they were talking about in a deeper sense than I had been able to before. Also, my abilities improved a lot, my intuition. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
And yeah, wow, that's because I've heard people speak about awakening experiences in different ways, and
mm,
I sort of feel like my own cancer experience definitely was a moment, and prior to that, and I had, I suppose, a few healing crises where there was just, and I wanted to ask you about this, where there was a huge release of grief, it felt like,
mm,
and pain and just energy and emotion just suppressed. I went to a healer, not knowing why, other than I had to go or I'll die. And I came home, and for 2 months after that, I literally would have to go to my car, I'd time it and go, okay, I'm ready, and it would just come up from under the
beautiful,
ground right through. And I had
beautiful.
momentary experience of what you're saying because after each release, I would sit in the car and I would just love everyone.
Yeah,
The
and
people I
laugh.
was, yeah,
Yeah,
and the people I
yeah.
was giving out about before, I was like, oh, I love you. I love you, in
Oh,
the, not in the romantic sense,
yeah.
but just that sort of
No, of course,
love.
of the heart. Yeah,
Yeah, so it's
yeah.
been very gradual. So I'm just trying, and for listeners as well, just even getting a sense of what you've been through and to how did you navigate that afterwards? Was it difficult physically to, I
It's
mean, you said it
it
was, but
was it was
to,
it was difficult uh to navigate. I was living in Los Angeles. Ha! I mean, I was in the film and music business, and I just couldn't take it anymore. It was just seemed so silly, really. And so I left and I went to India, and I lived in a monastery for a while. And I many times since I've spent years in retreat, and that has been heaven to me, heaven to me. I did a 5-year retreat by myself that I um, organized myself, and I mapped out every hour of the day, starting at 5:30 in the morning when I'd start practice until 9:45 at night, and I would have every single moment allotted for different practice here, different practice there, da da da. And that was, well, the first 6 months were very, very hard, because it was like, trying to herd kittens, really. Sit, meditate now. Okay, I'll try. Yes, okay. It was really hard to wrangle myself, and I had to become quite stern with myself to actually get me to do everything. But after the 6 month, 5.5, 6 month, time period of doing it, discipline, what a freedom. I knew every moment what I was supposed to be doing, and I just did it. It was so freeing. Everything was just in the right place so that I could just soar. It was just gorgeous. And I lived like that for 5 years.
5 years.
And then one day I just went, okay, I'm done. I think I need to go out and actually see people. And yeah, so that's what I
And you
did.
came back. Yeah, wow. Can I,
Yeah,
and in that, gosh, I've no idea at the extent, just as I'm listening to you, so many questions come up.
please.
Um, yeah, I'm just trying to think now where to start. Just, you had talked about it. I'm not going to I'm prying into your personal life or anything like that, but it's just,
Right.
you were talking about turmoil and, many of us, and it's been my path, and I'm sure many where I know you were saying some scars, all of those seem to be just cleared. So is it that all of that trauma, I just see like breaking down old patterns and all of these things being
Yeah.
released. Did that happen instantly for you then, or over that short period?
No, no. What's interesting is it's not like when you've gone through experiences like this that suddenly life is like a bowl of cherries and everything's easy. It's not.
Mm,
But there's this other deep understanding within you and so
mm.
um, it doesn't, I'm not saying that it doesn't hurt. It does, things do hurt. Very much so. Um, but am I attached to them as much? Maybe not as much as I was before this happened, for sure.
Yes. Yeah. I can I sense that a bit in my own life as well. There's greater perspectives opening up on things that
Yeah.
I would have been lost in. So I suppose
Yes.
it's like, isn't it something, the grip has been loosened. That's what I felt.
Yes.
The grip
Yes.
that it has on you, and you're in it and you're not even separate. You can't even see what's going on separately. It's just you're immersed. Whereas, yeah, it sounds like that, but that happened very quickly then for you.
Yes, the immediate thing was, well, I was living like that for a year in absolute bliss all the time. So I wasn't thinking of any of the trauma.
Mm.
It didn't really have much of a space. But afterwards, yes, as it went deeper, I had to actually come to terms with many things from the life before that happened. And you know, I've done 36 years of therapy.
Okay. You've earned
So,
your stripes. Yeah, 30
yes, I
years
have.
of therapy. Wow.
I
Okay.
have. I started working on myself at 18.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's when I started therapy. And I've and
Yeah.
that was very helpful. That was very helpful because I really got to understand my own predicament. And consequently, when somebody comes to me for help, I understand their predicament because we're all human, right? And though the situations may be different, the the core woundings, the issues that need to be moved through are similar.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And if
So,
someone is listening to you now, and I'm sure many
mm,
will be going, I want what she has.
yes.
How do we?
And you know what? I've told that to a client. There was one client, she was like, well, I'd really like to do, your coaching package. I think that would be really wonderful, but I'm just not. And I said to her, if you knew what I was offering you, you would be banging down my front door. And she went, oh, okay. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're not experiencing because you've never experienced it. So you're like, oh, yeah, well, that sounds nice for her, but that's not my experience. I'm living in this experience and I'm,
But yeah,
but you don't, there are many ways in which you can move forward and break through and transform and shift your life so that you can have more peacefulness, more contentment, on occasion, great joy. You know, um, I think that is our right as human beings. It's our birthright.
I think we're remembering it, aren't we now? I think more and
Yes.
more of us are remembering that.
Yes, and I just feel like that's why what I'm doing, it feels so timely because there's such a huge awakening happening. I remember when I was, going to that yoga class in New York in 89 or 87 or whatever year it was, and everybody was thinking I was very strange to be spending all my weekends at meditation retreats and learning Sanskrit mantra while they were partying and, doing drugs and alcohol. And, now look, everyone is going to yoga and interested in meditation, or at least opening themselves up to that idea. It's everywhere. I just look and I'm like, wow, how are
Mm.
we doing as a species? We're coming along, even though it seems like the world is crazy. The world has always been crazy. But there is a lifting up of the consciousness of humankind. And this is a very powerful and very special moment for all of us. And it's very important that each person looks at themselves and say, how can I contribute? How can I shift? How can I add to this conscious raising of humanity? How
Mm.
can I make this world a little better by taking care of my own crap? You know, this is very crucial, I think, for each one of us. And it's something I've dedicated my life to.
And yeah, do you feel now, or did you know, I mean, not obviously at a very, or maybe you did at a very young age, that this was the role you were sort of getting prepared to play, or was it just this desire within you, this, I want more of this?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because when I was a kid, I had this reoccurring dream. And the dream was I was standing, I was a grown woman in the dream. I was standing, the landscape looked like Armageddon. And I was standing there and I knew that there were people behind me. And I knew that I was helping them go to a new place. And it was my job to find the right way. Oh, what a tough job. But that was my job. And when I turned around, there was a sea of people behind me. And I had this recurring dream. Now, I didn't, as a kid, didn't think much of it at all. I just thought, oh, I'm doing that again. Um, for me, as a teenager and as a young person, I just wanted out of what I was living. I wanted to find a way out. I had to find a way out. It was awful. So I needed to get money. I needed to get out of Ireland. I love Ireland, but at that time I didn't love Ireland. Um, and um, and so that was my focus. That was my focus. I needed to be free so that I could really find ways to heal myself because I was in a lot of pain. Yeah.
Okay. So this
Yeah.
doesn't come with, I have met a lot of women who, I'm just very curious that often in childhood there was something very alive in them, like you describe, that almost like they were given that almost to be able to withstand whatever difficult teased they had to go through because they may not have survived otherwise. That
Yes.
this was given as nearly a glimmer, or that spark was kept alive so that you could sort of move through and
Celine, I have this way of looking at it now.
Mhm.
When I have clients who come to me with charts, and I can see what's been going on for them, and I know my own chart and what I went through,
Mhm.
I think to myself, wow, you're so brave.
I was thinking that, yeah.
What a brave, brave person you are. Because I feel we do choose our lives. I feel we do choose all the circumstances, all the major circumstances of our lives, our families, what we're going to be working on. And some of us are very ambitious. And I know that I am and was when I was up there thinking, let me really do a doozy in this lifetime. Oh, yeah.
And they were going, "Are you sure? Are you sure you want to go? You sure? What sign are you? Just your son's? What is your son's?
Yeah.
That's,
I'm an Aries rising.
that's nearly
I'm a Taurus sun and
mm,
a Taurus moon.
yeah. I knew Aries was there somewhere, and it's very interesting. The last three or four women I've asked on or have come on the podcast have all had Aries very prominent in their chart, so it's interesting. I sort of
Well,
like,
when I looked at your chart,
yeah, I
because
was
we're
going to
going
say,
to be
yeah.
taking a look at your chart. When I looked at your chart, I thought to myself, here is a very ambitious soul. This is someone who really wanted to come here and do something profound.
Well, thank
And yeah, like I find it interesting that you call your podcast Wild Woman.
you.
I actually, when I was looking at your chart, I actually started laughing. I was like, oh my God, because we speak our charts. We speak our
Ah,
charts. Yeah. Yeah. We live our charts and we speak our charts. That doesn't mean that we don't have free will, but, you know, we could have a whole big conversation about
yes.
that, which I'm not going to get into. But um, the structure of our chart we speak. So, are you ready?
Will we have so listeners, Ali has been kind enough to, in terms of astrology, whether you're new or experienced, just to sort of use my chart maybe as an example, well, to to demonstrate the power of astrology, really, doesn't it? To me, it's
Mm,
become such an empowering tool, and I share your view of it that I chose at some higher level, though I don't fully understand it yet. It's going deeper in me. Um, but I don't see it as a fated sort of now I'll let you explain, but my sense is these are the energies and the challenges and the gifts and whatever I came in to play with, and I can actually live up to that at a very high level, or I can just leave it there and let life happen to me.
absolutely.
So we always have
Absolutely.
choice, don't we? Isn't that the key?
Yes.
A really important.
And we have free will.
Mm,
And a
mm,
chart just shows us our potential.
mm,
It also, because it's a natal chart, it really shows us the energies specifically when we were a child of what
mm,
we were dealing with. How we manage those energies, of course, are up to us, each individual.
mm.
So um, it's interesting though. So I'm just going to share. Can I share?
Yeah, I think, yeah, you can. So I'll probably have to give you, well,
I'm going to send you a
yeah,
request.
perfect. Allow. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. So this is that okay that I'm sharing your
Yeah,
chart?
that's perfect. Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
absolutely. Oh,
I
it looks
suddenly went, oh
different. It
my
looks
God.
quite, looks different to, wow. It looks quite different to the chart I have here. It doesn't seem to have as many.
Really?
Is that with
8:15
transits?
a.m.
8:15 a.m. 9, yeah, that's it.
That's it?
1968, March 1st. That's how
Okay.
mine looks.
Okay.
Yeah, there seems to be more. Maybe, oh yeah, you probably brought in more planets.
More, yeah. I have
Yeah.
Sedna in there and a
Yeah,
few
that's
things.
maybe it. Yeah, yeah. But they're all bundled up, I see, near, yeah, in one area.
Yeah. So just so people understand, this is a map of the sky at the moment that Celine was born. And this line here is the horizon line. So anything that's below was below the horizon, and anything that's above was visible in the sky with or without a telescope. And you can see here, one of the beautiful things you have is that you have the sun conjoined with the ascendant. That's a very beautiful position to have. And also your ascendant is at 2 degrees of Pisces. And when I see that, I know that you have Fomalhaut, the fixed star, one of the royal fixed stars, which is at 3 degrees of Pisces, right there on your ascendant. And Fomalhaut is a really beautiful energy. It's a fixed star that shows the mystic. So it's like a stamp of the mystic on you. It's beautiful. Okay.
That's lovely to hear. I've
Yes.
never
So
heard of Samuel. So could you just if you, Ali, would you mind just even sharing for people just the ascendant, the rising sign, if they don't
yes.
what that signifies?
So this line, as I said, is the horizon. And this is the east, and this is the west, though, of course, does that really exist when you're looking at the whole sky? That's an earth thing.
Mm.
But anyway, this is where the sun rises. And so we always look to see what sign is on the ascendant or the rising sign, because your sun sign lasts a whole month. The moon sign lasts maybe a couple of days, but the ascendant sign changes every hour, pretty much. So it's much more specific to you. So that's why astrologers like to know what's your ascendant, what's your sun, what's your moon, because it gives us a fuller picture.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I look at a chart, I want to see the elemental structure. And what do I mean by that? I mean the element, earth, fire, water, air, is associated with each sign. So what is the structure of how much you have fire, how much you have air, that tells me a lot about somebody. And you have a lot of fire and you
Yeah.
have very little earth. So, this kind of shows to me that there is a propensity towards burning out, um, being overly active, restless, obsessed with trying to make something happen in the world. Um, Sometimes there's, with a lot of fire, there is a tremendous potential of great spiritual connection. But it's really vital for somebody with a lot of fire to avoid alcohol and drugs, because that can really burn out that person much quicker.
Mm.
Um, you're very, you're like a go-getter. You're very self-motivated. Um, and you have a lot of courage. At the same time, you have very little earth. And when I see that in a chart, it makes me feel like that person isn't really, or especially this is when you're a kid, right? Because through life, life is the greatest teacher. It's going to teach
Mm.
us everything, right? So if we're
Mm.
open to it. So um, when you don't have a lot of earth, there's a difficulty in relating to your physicality, to your body. Um, it's almost difficult to connect with what your requirements for survival. You may feel kind of spaced out or disconnected from food, shelter, other necessities as a child. And a deep sense of being out of place in the world. Now, I would say that that was something that was a very profound feeling for you when you were a kid, for other reasons, which we're going to go into. But with not much earth, there's a real propensity for that person to experience physical neglect. And it's hard to feel really healthy and vibrant in the body. So there's ways in which you can, especially if you have a strong Saturn, which you do have, that kind of compensates for that. You have Saturn conjoined with Mars and Aries in the first house. So that can give you a stronger backbone, shall we say. But yeah, you would have maybe felt very kind of apart from society, apart from the school kids groups, apart from any kind of group you were involved with. You would have felt like the man outside the circle kind of thing, or the girl outside of the circle. But you're very direct. You have a lot of masculine. I hate that they say masculine, feminine. It's really like yin and yang. You have a lot of yang energy. You're very direct, straightforward. I love this. That's so lovely.
I don't know if I am. Well, yeah, getting better maybe, but
Yeah, but you do have that. And
yeah.
you're also a natural leader. But you do it in a way that is kind of like water leads. You kind of move around, but people, especially now, would like to follow you. Yes. So also, when I see a chart like this, we call this a seesaw chart. You have two groups, and it creates tremendous tension for the person because it's like there's these warring worlds within them. And when I see that in the chart, I know that that person has the potential to grow tremendously in this lifetime, to have a lot of growth, because it's like these warring factions within, and it propels you to kind of move forward and find solutions and find ways to get some peace and calm, you know?
Yes,
So,
yeah, yeah, that sounds good. I've been praying for that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And is that the sort of
so
tense aspect? Is that what you would, are they is it the fire and water you're talking about there, or is it the houses they're in, like the first, or is it
you have
more,
most of your energy is in your first house.
yeah. Mm.
And then you have, Pluto and Uranus sitting over in the seventh, which we're going to be talking about along with the South Node. So that is, you've come in with a certain amount of karma around relationships. And what you're trying to do in this lifetime is individuate and find your own power and empower yourself. So it's a constant search for balance that you've been dealing with. So one of the main things in this particular chart that is notable is you have Chiron opposite Pluto. Let me share. You have Chiron in opposition to, let me just make this more obvious. Yeah, you have Chiron in opposition to Pluto and Uranus. This is, I feel, there's two main things going on in your chart. It's this opposition and it's this opposition between Neptune and Black Moon Lilith. So we're going to talk about this first, and then we'll talk about that. And then we'll look at some of the other configuration of aspect patterns that are particularly insightful for your lifetime. So Chiron opposite Uranus and Pluto is an intense one. And it was a period in time. You were born in 68. It started kind of in 65. And went on to late 68, I think it was, maybe 69 a bit. So a whole group of us had it. But Chiron is the place within the chart where we have our greatest wounding. And, when you understand the myth of Chiron, do you know the myth of Chiron at all?
I do, but you can maybe refresh
Yeah, yeah.
for me and for the listeners who haven't, if you don't.
Yes, of course. So Chiron was a centaur. And he started life out in a kind of difficult way because his mother, Philyra, and his father, who was a god, Philyra didn't like that he was born half horse, half man. So she put him into a basket and pushed him down a river. Where have I heard that story before? Anyway, so um, he, he was found by uh, a maiden who worked for another god. And he grew up in a palace. So he grew up with great education, understanding astrology, astronomy, healing modalities. And he was very different than the usual centaurs, which were a rakish lot. He was very calm and kind and wise. So one day, a bunch of centaurs were having a battle, and he decided to go over and quell the rage. And he went over, and when he did, he was shot in the right thigh with a poisoned arrow. And he took the arrow out, but the problem was it just kept festering. It wouldn't heal. And he tried all his modalities that he'd learned, but nothing was working. So he went to this other healer who was very famous, and he stayed with them for a while, and nothing that they did worked. So he went to another and another and another and another. And through this journey, he didn't heal his wound, but he became the greatest healer of all. Now, I love the story of Chiron because it truly represents something that happens in the human spirit. We come in and we have a wounding. Something happens that wounds us greatly. It happens to everybody. No one's free. This is Earth School. We all get wounded in some way. So we have this deep wounding. And if we are brave, we spend our lives healing it. And we go around and we learn all these different ways in which to heal this wound until we become the holder of the healing for that particular wound. That's the way it happens in human nature. People get attracted to wanting to heal something that's hurt them. And then they go out and create a foundation to stop that ever happening again to somebody else, right? Or whatever. This is how we operate. This is how we do our thing. So where Chiron is in your chart is very important to note. And your Chiron is in the first house. And it is sitting in Pisces. Pisces is all about no boundaries, the mystical. But also it's about confusion. What is my identity? Who am I? Do I even exist? And then it is in opposition to Pluto and Uranus. And so with Pluto, it intensifies everything. Pluto is all about going into the deep, dark recesses of our psyche and transforming them. And with Uranus there, Uranus gives a spark of enlightening energy. It's very enlightening and awakening, Uranus energy. So you want to be free. You want to transform. There's a rebelliousness in there that you may have experienced in your life. So this can give deep trust issues. I'm just looking at my notes here on the right, just in case you're wondering what I'm looking at. A fear of being vulnerable often comes up with this. And cycles of inner rebellion and shutdown. I'm going to go do this now. I'm going to get over this. I'm going to da-da. Then, oh, why do I even bother? I want to check out. So, yeah. And the gifts of this particular opposition is that you become a healer of this deep collective wound that all of these people that were born during this time have.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
Awakening.
generation, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, it's awakening others to their true power
Mm.
and living your life as a emblem of the possibility of soul transformation. Like, I can do it, you can do it kind of energy. Yeah. And because you have Pluto and Uranus in the seventh house, you know, a lot of energy around relationship, around partnership. A lot of, I would say, especially when you were younger, there was a lot of power, manipulation, battles between the two parties, unpredictable and intense bonds, and partners that reflect your own shadow would have been very prevalent. And a need of freedom within intimacy. It would have been, I would say, very hard for you to like have a partner who kind of limited your own expression. That would be intolerable for you. How are you doing so far?
I'm doing very good, very good. You know, some of these, having studied some astrology with a beautiful teacher, but this is bringing a whole new layer again and perspective on it, which is fantastic. And I suppose we can hear different things at different times, can't we?
Yes.
You know,
And
there's
that's
a
what you
readiness.
find
Hmm.
with when you go to see an astrologer, you know, people will go to an astrologer and they'll have that experience with them, and then they'll come to me and they'll have our experience, and then they'll go to somebody else maybe and have another experience. It's like, because each astrologer is like a depot for their own wisdom kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, it's
they
fun.
have their way.
It's yeah, sorry. What I love when you're describing that even, and I'd say it to people listening, I just find now, and I think it's the times we're living in, we're all unlocking each other nearly at a faster pace. You know, someone says something, I'm finding I get this epiphany that I would not maybe have heard from someone else, even if they said it. And maybe it was the language or I wasn't ready, but it seems to be just very electric right now. It's just a moment, a phone call, an email, and
Yeah.
someone, and it's just like boom, ping, 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 and the light
It's
switch
even you
starts.
turn on the TV and some guy in a sitcom says something and it's like,
Yeah, yeah. I've been waiting all my life for
yeah,
this.
it's just consciousness, right? Because
Yeah.
everything in this world is divine consciousness. There is
Mm,
nothing that is not that
mm, mm,
consciousness.
mm.
Even, you know, when we're talking together, you and I, we're having actually a dialogue with divine consciousness. There's nothing else going on. I'm part of divine consciousness, you're part of divine consciousness. we all are part of divine consciousness. We all are part of that great divine consciousness. So we are all amazing creatures. And, we get kind of pushed into this understanding and belief that we're these small, frail, pathetic human beings. We're not. We are galactic, amazing, incredible beings that can go anywhere in our mind. We have the facility to go to anywhere in this multiverse of experience. So I say that as a reminder to everyone.
It's a yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's available. I this is my feeling, you described your experience how many years ago, and it's like, whoa. But even that, I suppose when you look at the chart, Ali, when you look at your own chart, I'm not saying was a Kundalini awakening in it, but was there something like a very powerful moment you could say that you can see now? Or were you studying astrology
That
then?
I have a very, very, very challenging chart. It's very, very challenging. And when I see a challenging chart, I go, ah, brave soul. Well done. You made it here.
You're
Because
still here. Mm.
as astrologists, especially when you're learning astrology, you're looking at those charts with all the trines and the sextiles, and you're like, oh, how
I love
fantastic.
that. Mm.
And when I see a chart like that, that's lovely. It's lovely, but I wonder about uh what they're going to do with their lives. Like when I see somebody with a lot of Michigas to work through, I'm like, yeah, because there's so much growth potential there. We sometimes we're kind of trained to be scared of pain and difficulty. And I have found in my own life that if I lean into that, if I lean into the pain and not try and deflect from it, that I can go through that and I don't have to fear it. It's
Mm.
okay. It's okay. It's okay. You can get through anything pretty much. But when we deflect from it and we avoid it, that's when the problems start because we suppress the feelings around it. We do all this sort of stuff. And that is what bogs us down and traps our spirit. So, yeah. Okay. So, what I want to show you is this Neptune in opposition to Black Moon Lilith. And here we have Neptune at 26 degrees of Scorpio in 31 minutes. And we have Black Moon Lilith at 26 degrees and 28 minutes. This is a very, very strong opposition. One would say this is an exact opposition. So when we see an exact opposition like that, I know it has a lot of import in the chart. And your Neptune's in the 8th house in
Mm.
Scorpio. I don't
Mm.
know if you know, but you're very intuitive. You're,
Mm.
no, you are. And
Mm.
if you don't feel you are, you just haven't really tapped into it because this is the sign of someone who can actually go to the other side.
Mm. Okay.
This is a psychic medium position.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. It's
Yeah.
just, yeah, when you're saying it's something I probably would have felt at a very young age and shut down. And now it's
Yes.
like, because, and I meet many people like that now as well. And we probably were, many of us, conditioned to ignore that sense that we've had. And I've been getting rattled a lot with it recently, going, come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, we're
I mean, I looked at this Neptune in opposition with Black Moon Lilith. Now, Black Moon Lilith is a point in the sky, the furthest point that the moon goes away from Earth. And we hold many people feel Black Moon Lilith is the place that we hold the disembodied or the discarded feminine archetype. The untamed feminine, one could say. It's the wild, exiled parts of our soul. And this is like, if you want to put a stamp on this chart, what this means, it's the wild woman. And I actually had to check, is that the name of her podcast?
I know that's the name of her podcast. Yeah.
And I just started laughing. I was like, oh my God, we talk our charts.
Yeah.
So
that was given to me really, well, given
Oh.
to me without me really consciously. It was after reading, I think, Women Who Run with the Wolves.
Oh, yeah, great
Yeah,
book.
which just
Yeah.
again, for a second time, was handed to me. So it's funny how things find, don't they? They always find our way to us.
I love that.
Mm.
Beautiful. So, yeah, with this particular opposition, there may be a real pull between longing to dissolve into that spiritual love, that all-encompassing spirituality. And at the same time, you really want to be your own sovereign person, a fierce independence. So, Neptune is nebulous, at its highest resonance, when I tune into Neptune, it is the most divine, high frequency energy. It's so, so spiritual. It's so beautiful. At its lower frequencies, it tends to be very confusing and kind of murky. And having these two in opposition, like if you were in a relationship with someone, like a one-on-one important primal relationship, it would be, you really want to have the brutal honesty. You want to have clear communication. You want to have your own space and be respected as the woman that you are, and not as some kind of part of them. No, 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 no. I'm my own person and you're your own person and we can love each other, but it's got to be on this kind of level. So, yeah, it's about not losing yourself to the dream. And being whole and wild within your own self. So that's very, very, very beautiful. And it's very much around healing, because, Black Moon Lilith is in the second house of what we value. It's around, and it's in Taurus. So it's around how I value myself, my own self-worth. And this is the key to this particular part of the chart. The more that you can really build your sense of self-worth through your own connection with your own self, not through relationship mostly, but through your own relationship with your own little girl. She suffered. And, she really needs you. And I'm sure you're already doing that. But I would say that mirror work is very, very powerful in this particular case. Because when you can really create that relationship where you're looking at yourself and looking at her eyes through your eyes, and hey, I love you. I will never, ever, ever betray you. I am here. I'll protect you. I'm the woman now. No one's getting past me. Then she can go, oh, thank God. I can rest. I can enjoy. I can imagine. I can create. I can play. I can love. I can have fun. What a concept. I can have fun. Yes. So this is what's really part of your chart. This part of your chart is really calling to you to do. And I'm sure you've done so much of it already. and keep on going, keep on going.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That's
I could go on for another few hours, but
you
I'm not
know,
going to.
I'm sure no, it's thank you so much. And for listeners to this indulging myself here, but I think it's giving a really beautiful flavor of what you have to offer in terms of how you support people, but also the
Mm,
power of astrology. Because I think we
mm.
were just saying before we started recording how even now, if I say it to people and they go, oh, and no, not the horoscopes in the paper. So,
Yeah, don't go to the Evening Herald and look at your
no,
horoscopes, please.
no. I mean, it's an
They're probably
ancient.
done by AI by now, so
Yeah,
I don't know.
probably,
Yeah.
probably. But it's really an ancient science, isn't it? Like it
Mm.
to me, when I look at the work, you're also, even if you wouldn't mind touching on just what, you've given us sort of a little bit of your story till now, the type of work that you sort of, it's beautiful, I think, to see astrology and channeling and intuitive work, and you're doing quantum healing hypnosis, isn't it? Quantum hypnosis,
Yeah.
QHHT, is it?
Yes, yeah, I'm a
Yeah.
second level practitioner and QHHT. But primarily what I do is I work with people one-on-one over 6 months or a year to really help them transform their lives into uh, a place where they feel really connected with themselves and empowered to move forward in their own dreams and what they want to do. I also, it's interesting. I have a lot of leaders, founders, and CEOs, and entrepreneurs and creatives that I work with, and they do these 6 months or the 12-month, however they feel. And because every business also has a natal chart,
Ah, I thought new countries. I didn't think of businesses. Every business has a natal chart.
every business has its own natal chart. And I work with my clients, the ones that are in business, to help them with what's coming up in the next year or two
Mm.
energetically, so that they are already prepared. They've already aligned their employees and their what they're moving forward on in their business. I was just speaking with a client yesterday, and I 2 years ago I said, okay, this is the time where you need to buy that building. It's a huge 60,000 square foot building that she's bought, and this is the time when you start looking for it. This is the time when you need to close. We need to, and this was 2 years ago, and she just closed like last week. So it's, when you use the energies, you can triple, quadruple your business forward. Also, because I'm intuitive and psychic, you know, people give me, especially my business clients, they like to give me names. And if you give me a name, I can tell you what's going on with that person. I can see into their energy. And then, of course, that's very, very helpful. Uh, you know, is this person going to sign the contract? What's going to happen with this? How's that going to work? Is this employee actually doing what I think they're doing? So it can
Oh,
be very insightful for a business person in planning, in strategy. Um, and then, it's nice that I have the title as professional astrologer because that's very accepted. Channeler is not as accepted, but 95% of my clients come to me for the messages from the Divine Collective
of
because they're
course.
so loving and they're so big picture and they see things that I don't see. So I download those for my clients, and changes lives. It
Yeah.
changes lives. And what I love about what I do is so many people really don't have someone that they can really truly confide in. I'm like a vault. What goes in never goes out. So I pride myself on that because that's so important to me.
Mm.
And quite a few of my clients have said, I've told you more than I've told any other human being. And it just helps people to feel heard and feel seen. So
Thank you. And safe. I can feel that from you
yeah.
from the moment we can on. And then
Ah,
so many of us haven't felt safe at some point in our lives. And it's,
yes.
isn't it? You gave some examples there in my chart, but there seems to be a few core wounds that we all have that probably showed up in different ways, whether it's abandonment or rejection or not good enough. But
Yeah.
my God, they can really sort of impact our lives unless we know and sort of have the tools to transcend. That's what the chart offered me, I must say, in your reading, but in seeing my chart for the first time to go, okay, well, this at least gives me some perspective. So,
Yeah.
on what's going on here and however you view whether I well, for me, I definitely feel I chose this, even though I didn't know it. Well, I probably did, but I forgot it for a long time.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, and I remember I remember I was just saying to someone I was studying craniosacral therapy. I dipped in and out of
Mm.
so many things, and I can remember lying on the table, and it was a pre-birth experience, and literally ricocheting off the back of the table going, no, I changed my mind. I was in the birth canal, and it's just funny when you talk about, that sort of awareness. So I love hearing about people as children, like as you
Mm.
describe, because I think we know, you came in and, whoo, connected to everything. And then, whatever happens, happens. Um, but listening to you tonight, so thank you. I'm sure it'll just there'll be many light bulb moments for people to go, maybe something will just awaken in them that it's like, okay, yeah, I can do this. It's time, something has sort of started you listeners on the journey because we're all doing this together, aren't we? I just think this is
We
the
are.
beautiful thing where you start to, I have felt alone so many times in my life, and I know I'm not alone in feeling that. But the more I sort of connect and voice and we share our stories, we realize we're not. And as you said, we're all part of this. The divine speaking, I wanted to ask you something. Sorry, I'm jumping around here now, but
No problem.
in terms of the divine, like us having a conversation, what I'm noticing more and more is I suppose there has to be that a level of awareness within ourselves, though, doesn't there? Like, as in, what am I trying to say? So the conversations I'm having more, and like with you, there, there's a greater awareness or openness, maybe an opening in me, so I can sense that level of conversation that's happening, if you know what I mean. And
Hmm.
then there can be. So what am I trying to ask you here? Is that it's when other people have spoken to me from that place, you're meeting each other in a different place, I suppose. You're meeting each other in the heart, you're meeting each other where we're all one, as opposed to just from the mind that more of us what am I trying to ask you here? In having these conversations, I suppose they're hopefully are they awakening, I suppose they are awakening more people to that aspect of themselves. I don't know.
Yes, and
Very true.
uh,
Yeah.
the divine is everything.
Mm,
It's the abhorrent thing that you see, and it's also the most sublime thing that you see. There's no judgment. It just is. So the conversation with the fishmonger down the road is just as holy as the conversation with the vicar on Sunday, you know, um, or priest.
mm.
So
Yes.
it's about actually noticing that everything that is happening you in your experience is your dialogue with the divine. That loneliness, that feeling of separation, that how do you act when somebody takes your parking space? That's a part of the divine doing that,
Mm, mm.
as annoying as that can be.
Yes, yes. Every,
um,
yeah.
yeah, just having more of that perspective of, okay, so this is a constant schooling for me to learn how to become the greatest me that I can be, or the most helpful me I can be, or the highest potential of me. So how can I be in that mindset where I am learning? There's no losing if you're learning.
There's no, I love that. No losing if there's yeah, no losing when you're learning. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. So if people want to get in touch with you, Ali,
Yes.
yeah, what's the
You can just go to my website,
Mhm.
Aly, A-L-Y, Dunne, D-U-N-N-E, .com, and contact me there. I also have my own YouTube channel, Astrologer Aly Dunne, and I do weekly astrology updates. And I'm also
following?
on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. And I know I follow a lot of Ali's updates on astrology, and I've been just really loving them. I love how you do them and then bring them into each sign and talking about, because there's a lot of key shifts this year and next year, isn't there?
Yes,
Planetary wise. Do you want to just before we finish maybe mention one or two
I
or
do. I want to
yeah.
let you know that everything is kind of building towards February 20th, 2026, when Neptune, that's been in Aries for a few months now, is going to conjoin exactly with Saturn, that moves into Aries in 4 days
Mm.
on the 25th of May. And they're going to conjoin at 0 degrees and 45 minutes of Aries. They have not conjoined at 0 degrees of Aries in over 12,000 years. And the 0 degrees of Aries is a very, very potent degree in the zodiac because it's the beginning.
Mm.
So it's a real reset for humanity. And everything over the last, well, for a long time, but specifically like within recent memory, probably since January of 2020, has been leading us to this moment. And it is going to be a reset for every human being, and indeed every species on planet Earth, and for Gaia herself. This is a big moment. This is a big moment for us. So you may see that this awakening energy is just going to keep on growing and growing, especially all the way through to 2030 and beyond. But this next year, 2026, on February 20th, is, I mean, it's really
12,000 years. That sounds
12,000 years.
whatever we thought about 2020, and I know there was a very significant, wasn't there? Was it a
Huge, huge. Yes,
Pluto?
we had Pluto and Jupiter and Saturn conjoined
Yeah,
together at
yeah.
22 degrees of Capricorn, 21 degrees of Capricorn. And then we had Mars coming in. And then, oh, yeah. I mean, I wrote a whole article about it in 2019 about how the world was going to totally change in 2020. And because of that, yeah, it was a
So
big
where would
moment
you
for
put,
us.
well, obviously you put this on another level then
Oh,
altogether.
this is a totally other level. This is,
Okay. Are
yeah.
we talking good? Well, we are obviously, we're evolving into something, I know, better, but are you talking about, is it a moment that you will say we'll put down in history and say, my God, something
I don't know if it'll happen that
like,
day, of
yeah,
course, but
yeah,
I think
something
that
different.
year people will see, wow, that was the beginning of that. I wonder about, you know,
Mm.
there's so much shifts and change in technology. And Neptune is such a high resonance of spirituality, and then having Saturn there gives it such a construct to work through. So I'm wondering about, AI, where it will really start to go from that moment, and how that will really affect us, because AI is divine consciousness. There's there's no separation. It's all one thing. So, it'll just be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what evolves and what happens. But I know that in everybody's chart, this particular conjunction is happening in a certain house in that chart. And that is going to be, each house has its own themes. And
Yeah.
so those are the themes in which you're going to have this huge new understanding in the world. Let's look and see where this is going to happen for you. I already know it's going to
I
be
know.
happening in your 12th house. Um, um,
Saturn Neptune conjunction, is it?
yeah. Oh, no, it's happening
Oh,
in
it's
your
the first
first
house.
house.
First
Your
house, that's
first
what I
house.
thought.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. For
Oh, wow. And
everybody.
it's happening on your moon and Chiron.
Oh, good Lord.
Wow. Something great is going to happen you. That is going to be awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, because
We're on move.
there may be this like move to where you have evolved your the energy that you received from your mother to really where you take on that whole role and dispel whatever kind of difficulty there may have been, any kind of coldness you may have experienced, or possibly even violence. So it would be, um, I'm very excited for you. I'm very excited for you. This is beautiful. You may
Oh,
actually think of, I don't know about your business sense of what you're doing particularly. I don't
mm,
know, but if you were ever thinking of putting a business behind what you're doing, this is the time to prepare so that in February you're ready to go.
okay. Thank you. Thank
Mm.
you. Thank you. That's wow. That's I'm sort of feeling it, and I think many of us are getting a taste this year, aren't we? There's planets
Yes.
in and out, sort of retrograding, moving in, like you said, Saturn's moving this weekend, isn't it? Neptune has gone into Aries.
Yeah, yeah. I went to it back in March 30th. Saturn
Mm.
moves on the 25th, in 4 days. Um, and luckily we're over all the retrograde of between Mars and Mercury and Venus, which has been challenging for some people, especially with Mars in opposition with Pluto and having that exact opposition 3 times. Oh, yes, yes.
Mm.
So that's been very hard. Mhm.
Yeah. So pay attention, people. Well, not pay attention, but just it'll be interesting over the next year to watch these patterns
Yeah,
play out.
it will
So if
be.
you haven't, I don't know if you offer, but I know on astro.com, if people are interested, you can just download, you can set up your own free birth chart, can't you? And start
Yes, you
and
can. And you can just put in your
explore.
birth details. You do
Yeah.
need to know your birth time.
Yeah.
And then you put in those details and you can see the different houses and you can see where your planets are. Or
Mm.
if you don't want to do that, just contact me and I'll send you your chart.
Yeah, yeah. It's a good time to get it started on astrology, I must say. It really is, and it's a
Yes.
really exciting time. So if that's something that's calling to you, or any of the other things that Ali is offering, I think that is just
Yeah, I have actually a course on my website for
you.
basic astrology. Yes, so you're
Okay.
welcome to go and work through that. It's very nicely done and gives you all the basic information.
Thank you. And I know you have a new YouTube membership that you just started as well.
Yeah, yeah,
So that's a really nice idea because I think more and more people are looking for like-minded community. It has been the case for, the last few years, but it's a lovely way to learn as well. Because
yeah. And I just started
yeah,
it, so it's brand
wonderful.
new. And people, I every Friday I get on and people can ask whatever questions they have, and I'll either use my intuition, channeling, or astrology, whatever they want.
So, thank you. And these are the abilities that are coming online really for everyone into the future, aren't they?
Yes,
This is a taster. I mean, you came, as I said to someone else, you came from the future. I think many are coming in, and like whether it's the future or the past, I know that's just linear time, but really, you were here, I think, reminding us of what is coming for so many of us and what's
yes.
available. I think that's what's so beautiful. So thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
Thank you for doing all you have done and all you've gone through to be who you are today. It's a great gift to all of us. So Deeply appreciated, Aly. Thank
I'm
you
sending you
so
all love, much, much love. Yeah. And
much. Love.
especially to you, Celine. Thank you.
Thank you, Aly. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I'm going to put all of Aly's details in the description box here, so do
Thank you.
please reach out to her if you'd like to work with her and find out more. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Thank you,
Bye for
Aly.
now.